I remember sitting down with her, like, babe, are you willing to lose everything? Because if this doesn't work out, we're starting from zero.
This guy quit school, he had no plan, and now he's a millionaire.
I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. Being comfortable is the death of motivation. I absolutely can't stand it.
David Kovalev is the founder of Kova Heating and Cooling. A high school dropout, David bootstrapped the company to $12 million in revenue in just 6 short years.
With your former employer, is your company bigger?
Yes.
What was the turning point for you where you went from being self-employed to being a business owner?
I cannot start unless I have $40,000 in cash. That was the hardest $40,000 I've ever made. From day one, without almost any revenue, I got my first guy on board.
David risked it all, including the family home, to build the empire without taking on a single penny of debt.
You're a conservative business person.
I would absolutely lose my mind if I was several $million in debt.
But I'm going to ask you a political question. Tell us about tariffs and its impact.
I think what Trump is doing with tariffs is...
What's up, guys? Quick break over here. 80% of you guys listening are not subscribers. The more subscribers we get, the bigger and better we can make the show.
And if you've been getting value from Matchbox, please hit that subscribe button below. For you, it's just a click. For us, it means a lot.
Thanks for watching, guys. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you.
You got a good, strong name.
Thank you. I like yours as well.
I believe we're going to have a nice, fun conversation about you, about your life, about the business, and what are you up to. So let's just dive into it. Can you introduce yourself and tell us in short 2-3 minutes who you are, what are you doing now, how big is the business, and so on?
Yeah. Well, I'm David. I own Kova Heating and Cooling. Started the company about a little over 5 years ago. We're about 32 employees, anywhere from 30 to 40, I'd say right now. Yeah, I mean, it's fast growing. We just kind of trying to keep up.
With the demand, keep up with the demand.
Keep up with the demand, yeah. Just keep up with like the craziness of fast growth. I think, just kind of like, I think it's just mentally trying to keep up. Just trying to balance the business, balance personal life, balance spiritual life and everything else, and keeping it together. So,
when did you start the business?
Started the business. It was, I think it was the end of 2019. It was like the last month of 2019. So right, like literally when I started the business, like 2 weeks after that, we got full shutdown for COVID.
Wow.
So it was a really weird situation there. And I can get into it in a little bit more detail, kind of like how that all played out. But yeah, it was right there in that COVID time.
And were you working in heating and cooling prior?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so starting the business was planned for me. I was in the industry for I want to say 7 years before I started the company. 4 of those years, I was directly planning to start the business. There was a couple key things that I kind of had in place, rules as to say to myself that I'm not going to start a business until I hit those targets. I've just seen so many companies start and fail. Do
you mind sharing what those targets were for yourself?
Yeah. So my biggest thing was I cannot start unless I have $40,000 in cash put away, which required me to sacrifice a lot. It took me that 7-year time to really, I think that was the hardest $40,000 I've ever made. It took me 7 years to really work, save, drive just, the crappy car. All my friends buying nicer cars, everything else, just trying to be humble, explaining this to my wife, saying this is the plan, this is the way we're moving, and then just day to day, going to work, installing gas pipe in the crawl space and in the puddles of water, and just grinding, and that in the back of your head saying, okay, I'm doing this for a reason, I'm doing this for a purpose, I'm heading towards my goal. That was the only thing that kind of pushed me there. So $40,000 was kind of the benchmark. I also had a set date or an agreement with my previous employer that, on this specific date, this is when my contract is over with you.
That's honorable.
This is where I'm going to start my company.
So why 40,000?
It felt like $40,000 is what I needed to purchase my first van, purchase the tools that I needed.
Was it enough?
It was enough. It was enough. And COVID was honestly almost like a blessing to me, because when things did shut down, it was very worrisome. I'm like, I just kind of dropped everything, my safety net, everything, and now I don't know how I'm going to make money, how I'm going to pay for my mortgage and all this stuff. Luckily, like a month after the shutdown, my mortgage company sends me a letter in the mail, and it says, from a federal standpoint, they're not allowed to do any penalties or interest additionally or anything else, and I cannot pay my mortgage for up to 12 months and then resume payments after that. So when I advised with other people, they're like, don't do that, you're gonna get screwed over in the end. I was like, you know what, if I do, then I do, we'll reset, but at this point in time, I'm like, I'm just gonna stop paying for it. I'm gonna use that $2,500 to reinvest in my company and to be able to afford to live while I'm kind of, with growing with this.
That's interesting.
And how did that play out? Because I mean, I see you now. Obviously, I think it worked out, but
yes, yeah, no, it worked out great. I mean, just taking that mortgage off the plate reduced that stress where I'm like, I'm not going to lose my house.
That's big.
So I'm going to just take that money that I would be paying for mortgage and I'm going to directly invest it into my company. So everything I was making for probably the first 2 years of my business, I didn't take a single really dollar to myself. I lived very, very under means, just reinvest, cycle that money, cycle it. Never taken a single penny of debt on the company. It was always from the beginning, have some money, recycle that cash and keep it growing. Never wanted to get into heavy debt. I saw my dad lose everything in 2008. I was like, if I bite off more than I could chew, I might end up in a place where, everything may fall apart. So I always wanted to be like, okay, I have some money put away. If things fall apart, I can live off of this, reset, do something else, and continue on that direction. So, so yeah, those were pretty much the two biggest things is like, hey, learn enough, get my experience, learn and understand what I'm doing, and then have enough money to start doing those things. So that was that was kind of the starting point of that. So
yeah, I noticed that specifically men, they can only save when there's a purpose, when there's a goal. Before getting married, personally, I would be making good money here and there, but I couldn't save anything. There was a point when I made $70,000 in 2 months. And we were talking with my wife recently, and she's like, so where did that money go? It just
goes.
It just goes.
Right.
It finds places to
But
go.
the moment I proposed my wife in December 31st on the New Year's Eve, I had no money. We set the wedding in May, and guess what? I come up with $10,000 in just short 5 months. Well, less than that. I had to give deposits and so on. So when you have a goal, and I really like that and I appreciate it, and I think when you have a goal, everything is possible in terms of saving money, having that savings account and accumulating a little bit of cash for a specific goal. Because if you wouldn't have that goal, guess what? You wouldn't have $40,000, and possibly you wouldn't have a company right now.
No, I very much agree. I think the getting married young was a massive driving force to saying, okay, because like what do we need, right? I mean, we buy a house, we buy a car, like we don't need anything. But to spoil your wife, I mean, that's
spoil.
I love to spoil her. I mean, she's a very humble girl, like, but she actually she grew up with absolutely nothing. Single mother, things like that, and just like seeing her face light up when I bought her first pair of Nikes when we were dating. And she was like, I've never had Nikes before. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I want to give you everything. I want to see that every single time. So like being able to work and like be like, I want to provide the best life for you. I don't want you to work. I want you to enjoy your life, raise the kids, and just be, have everything that you possibly could want. I think that was a huge driving force for me. I personally, I like the stuff, I like to buy things and things like that, but I don't think it's enough of a driving force for me to be like, I'm going to go all out and just work so hard for it. But to do that for my family, I mean, that's everything. So,
well, let's go back to your company. So fast forward started end of 2019. Now 5 years in, you have 32 employees. Projected revenue for this year is
projecting about 12 million.
12 million.
10 to 12, yeah.
And completely bootstrapped. So meaning like you used your own cash. Are you leveraging any cash right now? Any financing? Any banks?
Lines of credit or anything like that?
No, I do have open lines of credit that banks kind of almost pushed onto me. They're like, you should just have it just in case. I've never had to use it. So as of right now, I mean, apart from like a few vehicles that we put on payments with zero interest because it was beneficial.
Yeah, makes sense.
We really, there was never any need for additional money. Which again, I think, I think as I would consider myself a very unexperienced entrepreneur still. I think I still have a lot to learn and really gain insight on. And I'm trying to do that every single day. There, just anybody I'd say like, hey, if you have access to this much money and then you're not using it, like, yes, I should be. I could definitely get into it and do all those things. I just like, I've always been kind of in the place where like I don't want to over leverage myself.
So you're a conservative business person.
Yes, I take massive risks, but I don't take massive risks with the ability to lose it all, to lose everything. So I would say I'm conservative in a way, but I'm very, very risky with the money that I do have. So it's a little bit of a balance, I would say, in those circumstances. I would absolutely lose my mind if I was, several $1 million in debt and then things fell apart. I couldn't pull it together and then just, have to do bankruptcy thing. I'd rather lose all of my own money and reset, restart, and redo it again than to be in that position. So,
because there's not a lot of equity in the company aside from actual cash flow that's bringing in. Let's say if you stop servicing anything, if you stop installations, your crews completely stop, and if you were to sell, there's not a lot of equipment equity, right?
Well, everything that's been purchased has been purchased in cash. So, I mean, we have, scissor lifts, forklifts, all the vehicles, all of the everything. I mean, so
it's probably worth a couple million.
$2 million, I would say. Yes, there's probably a couple million in equity if you don't count in the business itself, what it's generating and things like that. If you were to sell a business, that all comes into play. But yeah, as far as like, commercial real estate, all of that stuff, and that's all still yet to come. I've, again, just the last 5 years, just trying to kind of keep up with what we've been doing. But looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I'm always looking into it. Getting more and more insight and knowledge on those things. So,
what was the turning point for you where you went from being self-employed to being a business owner?
That's an interesting question as well. I think that from the very beginning, I was a business owner. I don't think I ever was like, I'd never had that drive to be self-employed. It was always, I want to run a business. And I've seen many companies specifically in the contractor world where you do have self-employed individuals who just get stuck in that. And a lot of it has to do with, hey, I'm a perfectionist and I don't trust anybody else to do it. Or, it's, they don't have the know-how of how to structure a company. For me, it was always, from day one, without almost any revenue, I got my first guy on board and I was like, hey, you're going to do this install and I'm going to sit down in the office and I'm going to stare at my screen. And if there's absolutely nothing that I can do and don't know what to do, I'm just going to sit there and stare at it. But I'm not leaving my office because this is where I belong. This is how I'm going to grow this thing. Oh, really? I didn't want to get out there and work and do the tools. I did that for 7 years. I'm like, I'm leaving that and I'm going to structure this business. Regardless of if it's making me less money at first, this is what's going to happen.
But you say you're not a very experienced business guy, and I feel like it's a very humble thing to say, but like what you just said, that you're gonna, from day one, try and remove yourself from the business, I feel like it's a very experienced thing to say.
I appreciate that you would say that. This was coming, me making those decisions was coming from just basic understanding of what I wanted versus learning of how it should be done. I think I mentioned earlier, and I don't know if this was, before we started the podcast, but, reading books, reading business books. All the entrepreneurs, business people I talk to, it's a crazy how much insight they have from these books. And I absolutely want to start reading those books. I feel like I can gain so much out of them. I haven't read any business books. I haven't studied any of this stuff. This all just came naturally through intuition, through just a basic understanding of how I need to get there. I think, early on in my life, I was always really good at solving puzzles. I always loved like a complicated puzzle. Even now, like for my, as of recently, actually, I sit down just to get my mind off of things. I'll build like these big Lego sets. I just got into building these big Lego sets because it just turns off my brain and I'm just fixing something and messing with something. So I think that's really helped me in my business. I would see a goal or a problem and I would chase a direction of how to resolve it or how to get there. And the trial and error, and eventually you kind of get it right and you get it figured out. Same thing if you look back at like in middle school, my math teachers, they would be like, they would give me a problem and I would hate math formulas. I was really good at math, hate math formulas. So they would give me a problem and I would solve it and I would bring her the paper and say, this is the answer. And she would say,
how did you get there?
How'd you get there? And I'm like, well, I did this. Well, that's not the right way. How about you go and use the formula that we taught you to do it the right way? And I would hate to go back there and try to do all my work when I figured out the answer in 5 minutes and should give them 30 minutes to solve this equation. And it just felt like a big waste of time for me. I liked to just look at the problem and solve it in my way. And I think that's the approach I've been taking with life, with business, with everything else, is just kind of doing it my way, going against the grain. And now that I look back, it's kind of been like this with almost everything in my life. So
on the topic of school, you are a high school dropout.
I am, yes. I dropped out end of my freshman year. So
wow.
So ninth grade.
That's early.
Ninth grade, yes. I was actually a really good student. I had mostly straight A's, I had some B's. In high school, I realized that I could pay people to do my homework. I hated to do my homework. I understood what they were teaching us. For tests, I would do the same thing, just thinking it through in a way where, how can I solve this problem? Again, ninth grade is not complex, and I'm not saying I'm super smart here, but I would just look at the problem.
And in public school.
And and just solve it. And I was like, okay, so tests I can do. I would just wing the tests. For homework and projects and things like that, I realized that I could just pay people some money and they wanted it for whatever, for their snacks and everything else, and they could just do it for me. So I would always have really good grades. But yeah, end of ninth grade, I felt like I was just wasting so much time there. I was so bored all the time in school. So I just dropped out. My parents, again, that was like a kind of a rebellious stage in my life. And my parents kind of were against it, but then they were like, you know what, just do it. You're skipping too much school anyway. You're not doing much there anyway. So whatever.
So what was the plan? You had to have a plan if you drop out.
Well, see, at the time, and that's what my parents asked, like, what's the plan? At the time, there was none. It was just,
I just hate school.
I just hate school. I don't want to go there because it just felt like I was doing nothing. I'd rather sit in my bed and do nothing. And when I did drop out, there was several years where I really just kind of did nothing. I wasted a lot of time. I just hung out with friends and didn't have a plan. Honestly, I was just kind of floating with zero
And no repercussions. Like nobody is calling your parents asking what's going on. Why is your
with school?
child?
With school, they were. I think that they had said like, "Hey, why isn't your kid in school?" and this and that. But I had signed up under some like really weird homeschool program where it was like they would send you textbooks and you were supposed to like submit them and stuff like that. I think I still have them somewhere. I mean, they're like never did them, But they did send me all those books and stuff. So my parents would just submit that into the school. Hey, he's homeschooled. So that kind of went
Okay,
away.
but you had to do some sort of a test at the end of the year.
For the homeschool, yes, but nobody asked about it. This homeschool was not an accredited school.
Okay.
So it was like
Interesting.
nobody was really following up on it. It was kind of like, I would say if from the outside, people would look at me and be like, this kid's a loser. He's not going to make it anywhere, right? This is just
Well, yeah, if you have no plan, you just want to stay in your bed, do nothing. I'm already, freaking out because I have a 9, a 12 and a 14-year-old. So he's a junior year. And, if he's watching this and he says, well, this guy quit school, he had no plan,
Don't do that.
and now he's a millionaire. So how do we advise people that actually school maybe is good, maybe it's not?
No, school. No, I honestly I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. Like if for me it worked out, and I think it's because I had a background of understanding myself that I would get somewhere eventually and kind of figure it out. I just that confidence. But and even my parents, I understandably worried about me, saying, "Hey, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. Like, what's going on?" Which at this point I completely understand. So they would push, and they would ask and everything like that, and they'd be like, you have to go to school, get a degree, get a job, everything else. Around that time, so I was about 16. So a couple years went by. I was about 16 years old. I went and just I'm just going to do my GED, and I'm going to get into some kind of college, some kind of school. I'll get a degree and I'll, move on. Went to Mount Hood Community College. There was I think it was 9 tests that you were supposed to pass to get your GED. Just kind of got all the books, studied them for a couple weeks. Went in there, did all 9 tests in one day. Took me 12 hours. Passed them all. They gave me a GD. I was like, okay, well, there's my high school diploma. Now we can go to school.
Okay.
Nice.
So
that's nice.
Yeah. So it was why do, for me, it was always in the back of my head, why do the 4 years and I could just do this and get a GD and still, unless I was trying to go to some prestigious school to do, be a doctor, which was never the plan, Yeah.
What I would say on the topic of school is there's a lot of successful people I know that actually are dropouts, but most of the lowlifes that I know are also dropouts. So correlation is not causation. I think if you look at the tail end, both on the upper end of people who are ultra successful and really not successful, both of those people drop out. But there's just something about the scrappiness of the Slavic community, Hispanic community has a lot of this too, where you hit a certain age, you're 14, 15, you want to get a car, your parents aren't going to give you the money, you got to make the money yourself. And there's this self-made spirit that drives you into wanting to drop out because, hey, school doesn't help me. It's not helping me get this car or the shoes to get the girl, to get the house. So why don't I just drop out? But yeah, again, correlation is not causation. And just because there's some people, who are successful for dropping out doesn't mean that that's the path for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that if somebody, if I could go back and look at myself in that time, would I say, hey, stay in school until you have a plan? Absolutely. I would tell myself that. If I could go back and change anything, I don't think I would. Just because I think that those 2 years, which my parents said I would deeply regret, I have yet to regret those days to this day, just because I think that time in my life, those 2 years had taught me something that nothing else really could. And that was that being that way and having no plan, having no drive, having, everybody look at you like you're just nothing. That's not the way that I wanted to be. That's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I think at a certain point it broke to where I was like, this will never happen again. And I can't say I regret that time. It was a time that I went through a lot of learning about myself and what I don't want to be. And I learned from experience, I think. And I think that experiencing that really kind of solidified that for me. and then after that, it was just like, once that was over, it was go, go, go. Um, business has always kind of been in the back of my head. My parents are not, business people. My mom's stay-at-home mother. My dad is, he tried a few things here and there. It was never anything that kind of took off. He's a low voltage electrician. He built a house, made some money on it, built another house, lost it in '08, completely wiped out, never really reset from that. So business was not his strong suit. And I don't really know where I got it from. But I know as early as like 8, 9 years old, me and my brother, I mean, we were like, hey, we have, we can mow a lawn. We can make $20. So we would go to our neighborhood with our lawnmower and just like, hey, we can do this. We could do this. We could do this. Yeah. We went as far as to make like t-shirts that would say, yard work team on it and draw a little rake on there. And we were like trying to brand it already, like early on. That's one example. In middle school, I realized that I could take people's lunch money, and not in a bullying way, but in a way where I could sell them things. Started with candy bars, just buying them at Safeway, reselling them for a little bit, 50% higher at school. And kids in middle school, their lunch money, their parents giving them lunch money. They don't want to eat the crap that they give in school. Okay, we can buy some Snickers bars. We can buy some sodas. All right, my mom take me to Costco. Hey, I'm gonna buy this in bulk.
That's funny.
I ended up growing this thing to where I rented my friend's locker for $5 a month next to me, so I could stock this stuff full of everything.
That's cool.
And I was selling, like, I would have a line around the lockers. It's like, buying Snickers bars and all this stuff during lunch. I was just dealing these candy bars.
Yeah. My kids, they were doing the same thing. They would come up with interesting toys that are trendy, and we would buy them at bulk. But they went to a private school, and the teachers, the principals shut it down. They're like, there's no trading. There's none of that buying, selling, because it became like a marketplace not a school.
100%. I got suspended for it.
Oh my God. You got in trouble too.
All
right. So here's the hack, because I literally did the same thing. But the first thing I did is I got myself elected class treasurer of my whole class. And I was in charge of like the money for the class. And we had to do fundraisers and stuff to do certain events and the proms or whatever. And so I was like, okay, so guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up this store. We're going to sell stuff to the kids. And my parents were like, wow, my boy's being an entrepreneur. So they'd go to Costco. They'd buy energy drinks and popsicles and candy bars. Cash and carry would get all this candy. And we had a teacher in the science room that had a fridge, and she bought into it because she was in charge of our class. And she's like, wow, like they're doing all the work. They just have to use my fridge. And literally people would sign up from the class to go and set up a little store during lunch to sell the energy drinks and candy bars. But then they would just give me all the money. And I was like, okay.
David, I think you should look for a career in politics.
Well,
sounds like a politician.
But here's what I realized. What I realized is, well, there's no agreement. So I'm like, the teacher was like, so how much goes to the class? What's the profit? I'm like, well, this is the profit. And I just give her like maybe 5 or 10%. She's like, oh, this is good. But nobody knew. The best part was like my parents never asked me for the money. So the inventory was free and I just pocketed everything. Nice. And even when I graduated, somebody else took the place. And I don't know if the store is still running today. Mrs. Dawkins, if you see this,
it's all
sorry. Sorry, it's the first of many scams I've done. I'm joking. No.
Oh man, yeah, those experiences, I mean, really, like they show that there's people who can, figure out ways to kind of move forward. Like again, my suspension happened in a really weird way because the teachers were not even aware of that this was happening. It was during lunch period at one time. There was some of those stink bombs or fart bombs or whatever they call them. Somebody threw them around the cafeteria, and it just did this whole, it was just a disaster. And I get randomly called into the principal's office. So I come into the principal's office, and the principal looks at me, and she's like, "David," she's like, "What are you selling out of your locker?" And I'm like kind of caught on the spot, but at the same time, I'm very proud of what I'm doing. So I'm like, oh yeah, and I start pulling out these Skittles and Snickers bars, and I'm just loading her table up with stuff because I'm selling the stuff. Even
you thought she could be a client too.
Yeah, apparently. So I'm putting this on her desk, And she's looking at me so confused. And she's like, I'm talking about the fart bombs. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm not selling fart bombs out of my locker. What is this? And apparently the kid that got caught said he bought them for me. And I don't know where he got them, whatever. I never sold those things out of my locker. But then she looks down and she's like, but you're not allowed to be doing this either. And she suspended me for it. Which to this day, I'm like, man, schools should be teaching more of this and less of the crap that they actually teach. Because in reality, I mean, these are the things that form and make millionaires, and not the stuff that they keep pushing into public schools.
That's true.
So
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's go back to the business.
The business, and then take us. So you started the business, and day one, you're in the office, and you've got somebody out there doing the work. Tell us more about that, because I feel like it's a very atypical thing to do, that people who start the business first do the work until they have enough cash flow to replace themselves. But you had that day one, which I think is really cool. And then take us through the progression from that moment when you first started until now, and what that growth trajectory looked like.
Yeah. So yeah, day one, got my first guy. Not to say that there were some times where I would do the jobs myself,
100%
physically. The goal was not to, but there were jobs that I still did.
Makes sense.
I would say about 9 months into the company, that's when I completely stopped doing the work like fully. I even got rid of my tools, kind of give them to my other guys and everything. But year one, it was the goal was get work and keep as many people busy as possible and stay profitable. So in the beginning, it was putting ads out on Craigslist. My first couple of jobs was running a kitchen vent out the sidewall or something for some. We would take on anything, honestly, anything that would come in.
You're like, you need a new driveway? Sure.
We try to keep it in the HVAC scope, but we would take on mostly anybody that reached out. So as it naturally grew, we got a second person and a third person, and started kind of forming relationships. Those relationships then started feeding more and more work, and then once that kind of word of mouth kicked in, it started growing pretty quickly. I would say, the first year, I think we did, I want to say right under $1 million, like 800,000 in gross. And I'm talking about 2020, because 2019 was like 2019 was like the last month. There was not much revenue there. It was right. COVID. We were just figuring it out. So 2020, I think we did like 800,000. In 2021, we jumped to 1.7. 2022 was 2.9, I believe. 23, which was, so 23, we did 5.6 in that ballpark. 24, which was last year, we were already at almost 8, so 7.8, 7.9, somewhere in there. And then this year we're projecting 10 to 12.
Praise God.
And praise God, honestly.
Why there's such a big gap, 10 to 12? Because are you anticipating
10 to 12 because of the recent market shifts and changes? We are. So I would say there's two different types of HVAC companies, and two are very, very different. And I'll get into it a little bit more later, but I'm actually departmentalizing my company to the point where it almost feels like two different businesses, because the way I've been running it has been, as to say, a muddled mess. It felt like I was running two completely separate strategies and separate businesses in one. And it's been very, very tricky to navigate that as we start to scale. New construction commercial industry is very, very impacted by the economy, what the Fed does, by construction and everything else. That business is very relationship and handshake based business. 90% of our business was new construction commercial style business for like the first 3 years of my business. So very much,
and it's lower margin than retail, right?
Most say yes. Depends on how you strategically approach the jobs and how you set up your teams and systems. We were able to net just as much as we would be netting on retro and service. But if you look at it from a standpoint of what the overall market sees, then yes, retro service is always going to net higher than new construction commercial. New construction commercial is usually very, very small margins, and you're operating at a very high capacity with minimal profit. We kind of changed that up a little bit, and there's some keys to why that happened, and COVID had to do with some of it. But yeah, so because we're departmentalizing right now, the business was difficult to scale with how it's, with how it was being ran
structure
with the new construction commercial. And the reason I say 10 to 12 is because recently construction has gone kind of down. It's been difficult to solidify and close contracts as much. Everybody's squeezing pricing down, and suppliers and everybody else is pulling pricing up. So our profit margin has narrowed to a very small point. But luckily, 2 years ago, I started diversifying the company and looking at the retro service side more, which right now, actually, as we're speaking, like just last week, we launched a few new systems that are going to really kind of escalate that side. And when I say split it, I mean split it. I hired a COO into my new construction and commercial business, operations officer running that completely. And I'm fully on board with my new department. I'm strategizing that system and setup. That's a marketing company. A retro service company is a marketing company, and anybody that says differently is lying. It is a marketing company, and all you got to do is just keep up with the quality and the service that you provide.
I agree.
The other business, this is a relationship. I mean, we did zero marketing the first 3 years. We got to almost $4 million the first, without any marketing at all.
And it's all okay for a business that's just starting out, such as Dot Garage Services. The guy is going to do $1 million this year, first year. So for him, it seems like he doesn't have the money to spend, nor the knowledge to spend on marketing. He just goes out to builders and shakes hands, and that's exactly what you did.
That's everything. I mean, just being able to, like we're sitting down right now, just being able to sit down with a builder and talk to him and buy him a drink. That's it. You could secure $1 million contract like that. And I was very good at talking to people.
Why would they choose you?
I think, I don't know. I think it's a charisma. Maybe I'm a little bit more charismatic when it comes to like being able to speak. I have a vision. I have a passion for it.
Maybe you're a good salesman.
I was pretty good at sales when I did it for for not my company but my previous employers.
Okay.
Just being able to talk to them and say, hey, this is why we're going to do. Also being very responsive when they do hire you for the first project. It astounds me at the amount of contractors who don't pick up their phones. I mean, it's crazy.
Just being responsive.
Just pick up your phone and be on top of it.
I mean, even just our conversation now, one thing that I think a lot of people lack in the contractor industry, an X factor that I think you have, is you're an excellent communicator. And you have that without formal education, but like whether it's pronunciation or just, knowing what words to use in the right sequence, it does have a huge difference when you're trying to close those commercial deals.
Yeah, it's called confidence. Like you when you speak confidently. People want to trust you. They trust you. They want to give you a shot. And then when you prove yourself, it's game on.
Yeah, no, that is game on. I think getting people to trust you on the first one is huge. And if you can solidify that and prove to them that you are capable of doing it, I mean, then they just like give you everything. The first apartment building that I was closing, I'm talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars with this individual. I have 4 guys working for me, and I'm walking around this job site saying, absolutely, we'll take care of it. Of course we can do this.
Easy.
And I'm looking at the stuff and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Hey, ChatGPT, how do you do that?
We didn't have ChatGPT. That thing wasn't even around. And I'm just like looking at this project and I'm like, what am I getting myself into? But at the same time, I can't stop myself from selling it. I want to get this job. And once we get it, then I'm like, we'll figure it out. And that was a huge growth thing for my company, is get something that's bigger than us. Let's figure out how to do it. And if we crash and burn, we reset, restart. Let's go again. Let's go again.
Basically, let's challenge ourselves.
Let's challenge ourselves.
Let's figure out something that's bigger than we are, just like you said, and we'll figure it out. We'll find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not being afraid of challenges.
Yeah.
That's a quality that's actually very important in an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I think that after you like do a few of those kind of projects that you were way over your head on, and you've pulled them off and you got paid and everything worked, you're so much more confident to do the next, and then so much more confident the next, and then your risks get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you start to realize that this is the way you operate. This is the way that you want to operate, and it's beautiful, because that's just it's a nonstop growth. There's no ceiling. There's no cap. You're always going to chase it. There's a saying that I live by literally in my mind is, being comfortable is the death of motivation. I hate comfortable. I absolutely can't stand it. If I am comfortable, I am doing something wrong. I have to be uncomfortable. I have to put myself in a position where I'm in a tense, pressured situation. I've realized in this business in the last 5 years, there have been moments where, I'm comfortable for 3-4 months at a time. And my wife will look at me when I come home and she's like, why are you so down? Like, where's your drive? Where's that motivation? And I'm like, I'm comfortable. I have everything. Why am I comfortable? Let's put myself in an uncomfortable situation. Let's get there. Let's put ourselves in a place where I have to continue to push, because that's exciting to me.
Yeah, let's find another mountain to summit.
Yes, that's exciting to me. This is what I love about business. It's not even the money. It's the where can we get? What can we do?
It's the destination.
It's the destination.
It's the next destination.
Yes.
After that. Sounds like you found your next challenge, and that's going to be B2C. You're forming a team. You're also stepping into this marketing game that's not super familiar to you. Can you talk about that? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So after a lot of debate in my mind about how I'm going to run this business and what we're going to do, and really kind of solidifying and realizing the two different business strategies that I'm trying to run in one. Once that decision was made, I began the process of the split. The process of the split really began only about 6 months ago. The thought process behind it came a little bit, longer ago, but right now, because our new construction commercial department is built, it's fluid, systems are in place, strategies, there's a lot of contracts that are set in stone that are revolving. It's easy for me to place somebody in a position that can run day-to-day operations. And I realized that if I want to scale a retro and service company, which I have many strategies in place of how we're going to do this, I knew that I needed to step away from it and give most of my time to that side of things. This again is still kind of happening as we speak, so we'll see how it all plays out. But I've allocated funds that we were able to make from the other side to the retro service side. I've hired a really solid marketing team that's been doing amazing. They've been kind of on everything.
So internal team, not an agency.
It's not an internal team, so they don't work for my company. I tried that with marketing but I realized that that's almost another business that we have to run. The marketing team is its own thing. So I actually found a local marketing team that guy started. He's kind of doing it on his own. He has a couple guys that specialize. One specializes in SEO. The other one specializes. What's that?
Is it Grow?
No, it's Masterworks.
Masterwork. Okay.
So one specializes in SEO, the other guy specializes in like video stuff, and one specializes in like how to generate leads. It's a marketing thing. I don't know. But all I know is that I pay them, and it's been great. They've been producing content. They've been posting stuff. They take care of all my social media. They've been doing all this stuff. And
do they produce leads?
They produce leads.
That's the most important.
That's the most important thing. And we're pretty much just right now, because of that split and all the turmoil and everything else, Once my teams are set in place, we started with a new CRM, which is very complex as well. So
what CRM did you choose?
With Service Titan.
Service Titan, yeah.
Yeah, Service Titan. It's a complex CRM. If you want to use it right, there's so much there, know. But I think once you get it right, it'll be perfect. And we're gonna put in the hard work right now. We're gonna get it perfect. We're gonna get the teams trained on it. We're gonna get it set up.
Typically, their ICP is 10 million plus companies.
Typically, yes. I realize that again with growing to this stage and not using the right CRM that I wanted to before, and then trying to convert it is such a difficult process that I'm like, okay, I'm starting this now while we're still fresh in this department. We're going to pay extra.
How much is it costing you?
I think right now it's around $3,000 a month.
3,000.
Wow. For a smaller team too. Once you get a bigger team, it can get up there pretty high. The thing is that I think that with Service Titan, we can grow to 200 employees. With another CRM, we can't get past 50. So we're planning and we're investing for the long game. We're not trying to grow a small department. We're trying to change this industry.
What's the goal for the next few years?
In terms of revenue? In terms of revenue, again, it's hard to say just because I'm hopeful, but I'm also doubtful in some of these areas. With the new construction and commercial side, I see that continuing to scale at a growth of about 20 to 30% year over year, depending on the people that we have in play, as well as depending on the market. So if the market kind of comes down, we might stay stable for a little bit, and then we'll grow again with it. With the retro service side, we could see one or the other happen. With the retro service side, we could see a very stagnant year and then an explosion, or we can see a very rapid growth right away. And it's really going to depend on how fast I can train my teams and how fast I can kind of structure this business. It's all going to come down to me structuring it. I think with getting more work and getting more leads, that's not the hard part, because we've branded ourselves very well already in the market, just from the new construction side. I think that once we ramp up the dollars on that side, we should be able to get leads from all different sources. The biggest thing is going to be strategy of how that sale goes through, how that job gets completed, and is everything perfect? What kind of reviews are we getting? And start to finish. Once that starts kind of cycling, we'll be able to just ramp up, just bring in more teams, more trainers, or more people to train. Hopefully in this market right now, I know a lot of people are getting laid off. We're going to start picking up some pretty good people, hopefully. So, this first year is hard to say. I have a projection of a $50 million a year on the retro service side within about a 3-year period. If everything goes as planned and what I've strategized. So
basically you're working on the customer journey and the customer flow right now.
Yes.
Lead comes in, somebody calls in, somebody sets an appointment, and you're just polishing every single side of it.
Yeah, and if you want to break it down into minuscule little pieces, every single stepping stone to how that phone gets answered. What does the office girl say? How does she respond if the customer says this? These are such little tiny things that if you can perfect, you can really, really scale it. Very small adjustments within that process can cost the business or make the business hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's what we're trying to get right, is we're really trying to, personally me trying to really focus on those systems, that process, and how that's all going to work.
Are you doing this all by yourself, or you're actually seeking some outside help, maybe some consulting from bigger guys that done it all, that scaled fast?
I do seek some, again, just because of the rapid progression of everything, it's been really hard to step back sometimes and say, this is how I need to revisit this exact thing. I've been doing majorly everything myself and with how I think it should be done. I think that I think I will consult. I think I will consult people and get advice. And yeah, for sure. And I'm good friends with what's his name? His company's name. His company's name is Essential Air from Seattle, Ben. With Ben. Yes, so I'm pretty good friends with Ben. we've chatted a few times. He stopped by my office before. And I think he's kind of doing a similar strategy with his growth there in Seattle. I think he's also friends are related to another guy in Pennsylvania that does something similar.
Right.
So very, very kind of interesting guys, awesome to talk to. They're kind of working on that.
We actually did a podcast with them. Have you watched that one?
I haven't. I came here. I haven't actually seen any of the podcasts. I'll go back and watch them though.
Well, I would recommend that one to be the first one to watch.
Yeah.
And actually, it seems like Sam would be a good person for you to talk to because he scaled his company mostly B2C.
Yeah, I think he's like a $60 or $70 million or something. Yeah.
So, and we asked him the same question. It's like, how did you grow? And one thing he said is he found partners, he found people that were specialists in that specific side of things. For example, marketing. He found a company that was doing marketing, and he partnered with them. And then he would go to an extent where he would fly to LA to an HVAC business and tour their facility, ask a bunch of questions, and learn a lot of things that he would eventually get to by himself. But it would be a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of money burned. So why? There's so many HVAC businesses, and there's a lot of businesses that are Christian-owned companies. I actually know a guy that was scaling HVAC businesses in, I don't know him personally, but through a friend in Hawaii. And he was selling a lot. There's another guy that is much older, and he was doing the exact same thing. He scaled 4 HVAC companies in California, and now he's full-time ministry, and he's
Wow.
So there's wisdom out there. It's and a lot of people, most of these guys, especially older generation, they're willing to share. They're not greedy for information.
Yeah.
And they're willing to help and consult. Some will consult for a fee. Some will consult just because they like you. Some will consult because, I don't know, but they will.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you. Just like seeing even me and myself at my age. I love to see people doing things different to succeed. To like, and if anybody asks me for any advice, I am absolutely willing to share it. A lot of the previous employers I worked for and other people that I've known, it was like, trying to hide all this information and trying to say, oh, I'm scared he's gonna go do stuff on their own. Dude, go for it. Go for it. Honestly, business is not easy. This thing is a monster. And if there are people who are capable and there are people that are not, and why don't you find out? Why don't you find out? Like I will support you. I will tell you information. I will, tell you everything that I could possibly know myself.
Makes sense.
But to watch young people grow up, succeed in business, it's great. Like I remember myself doubting everything about myself in my life, doubting what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, being scared of taking those steps. That's such a big thing that just, shifts people away from making those decisions, and then they'll never find out. And to me, that's so depressing. To me, that's scary. Like when I see people working on a daily basis all their lives, like if you have a plan to work those and you're going to work for 10 years, but then you will start to do something, go for it, do it. But if you're just working to pay your bills and you have no plan and no ideas and nothing to fall back on and move forward with, like that to me is the scariest place to be.
It's like a hamster in a wheel.
Hamster in a wheel. It is scary.
It sucks to be in that. It's depressing.
It is. And I talked to my wife about this a lot when we were dating and, after we got married. And I remember, when that decision came to make that decision to start the business or not. And I remember sitting down with her and I'm like, babe, this is where we're at. My contract with this employer is over in a week. I was like, I have the money. Everything is set up exactly the way that I planned.
It's go time.
I worked for this. And I was like, are you willing to lose everything? I was like, are you willing to lose the house? Are you willing to lose everything? Because if this doesn't work out, we're starting from zero. And if we're starting from zero, I'm going to work again for 7 years and I'm going to do it again.
Wow.
I was like, I'm gonna do it again. I don't care.
It's
like
a tough
this
conversation.
it's a tough conversation. And we had just purchased our first home. Like, we're newlyweds. She had literally, I don't know if she found out she had just gotten pregnant. I don't know if we knew at that conversation or we didn't. I'm gonna have to verify with her. But I know that, we were trying for a baby, and it just, and you know what she told me? She was like, do it. She's like, just do it. She's like, if you don't, you will never know.
You got this final sign off.
Yeah. She's like,
Go.
she's like, if we lose everything, okay, we'll go again. She's like, do it. Because if you don't do this right now, you will never do this. And if you never do this, you will never know. And that to me kind of like solidified everything. I'm like, I'm not going to lose my wife. I'm not going to lose, my family, the most important thing to me right now. And if we end up starting from scratch and going in an apartment, that's what we'll do. And she's right. She was right. Go for it. Just do it. Risk it all.
David, I'm curious, with your former employer, so now is your company bigger than?
Yes.
It's bigger.
Yes.
But
yeah, we're actually reaching the size. We're reaching, if not bigger than the company that the first company I worked for, who he actually fired me after 3 years, and it's
you didn't tell us about that.
Yeah, so I worked there for 3 years.
So another HVAC company.
This was another HVAC. This was my first HVAC company that I worked for, and originally I wanted to be an electrician. Like when I originally thought about getting into trades, because like I haven't told you guys the full story of how I ended up here, I guess. So like it's a little bit kind of back and forth. But the first company that I worked for in HVAC, I kind of fell into it, and I just kind of learned stuff, and got into the retro side, and kind of was his retro lead for a little while. I don't remember why I got fired. I mean, I think there was some tension and communication back and forth between how things were happening and stuff like that.
You got fired?
I got fired. I had the
How you don't remember why you got fired?
It was something to do with
emotions.
Emotion. It's an emotional thing. Yes, it was an emotional thing because I honestly don't even remember. It was such a stupid thing. And
did you ever want to find out? Why don't you just call that person?
I actually talked to him. We never talk about that time that it happened. I actually do talk to him because we're in the same industry now. And it's interesting because like when we speak, it's business oriented. We actually helped each other out with like material and equipment during those tough times in COVID and everything else. But I don't think it was ever expected. My employers never thought that I was going to get here. It was always this will never happen type of thing. When I got fired and I started working for the other guy, my previous employer actually was kind of like, man, you should come back, this and that, because he put all this training into me and all this stuff. But I had made a deal within a contract with the new employer, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna work for you for 4 years. And after that's done, I'm going to start my own company.
That's not really typical for someone in that service-based business to do a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
It's typically not even a year.
I got burned pretty bad. Like part of the deal was that I was going to get a lot of help with setting, like if I do the 4 years, you're going to help me, set up my business. You're going to set me up with my first, vehicles. Mm-hmm. This was like the deal. And not only did that not come to fruition, I also left with a lot of money being owed to me.
Oh, wow.
Because I was sales commission, and I had sold a lot, and the commission was never paid out. And I was chasing that money because it was a hefty sum. Mm-hmm. At the time, it was a lot for me. It was like $20-something thousand. And I chased it around for about a year, after that, I was like, whatever, just let it go. Yeah. Once the business started scaling and growing, and I kind of realized I could do it on myself, I was like, whatever. But the I could have left earlier. I think it was the agreement that I made, and there was like a no compete agreement that was signed and stuff like that. And my lawyers told me that's all a bunch of BS. Like you can get away from that. That's not a thing in Washington. It was more of a respect thing. I told you I'll do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick it out. Like we're going to finish this all the way through. It also gave me
being
that
a man of your own word.
Yeah, being a man of the word, as well as like just the patience that it taught me to say, hey, I could have done this a year ago, but I didn't. patience and everything else that kind of, I told myself that this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. So
If there was no contract, would you have made the jump sooner?
yes. Yeah. If there was no contract, I think I would have made the jump 2 years sooner, probably. Because
But this contract sounds like it's your initiative. You decided, because it's typically month-to-month employment for everyone. Why would you sign a 4-year contract?
I signed the 4-year contract. At that time, I knew that I couldn't start off on my own yet. I knew I didn't have the funds. I didn't have all of the knowledge, the well-rounded knowledge. The other thing that I saw was that his company was only at about 3 or 4 guys when I started. And I knew that in 4 years' time, I could see what I could do with it. Towards the last year there, I was managing the crews. I was doing service. I was doing sales. I was essentially running a good chunk of that company. And I knew that leaving my first employer, all I knew was retrofit. I knew how to install systems. When I left that one, I knew all of it.
Let's switch gears a little bit. David, I'm going to ask you a political question when you may not want to answer. Tariffs. A lot of Republicans are all saying, nah, tariffs are just being gobbled up by the companies. But then all the Democrats are saying, actually, no, it's passed on to the end consumer. You touch product that most likely is not made in the US. I think it probably has a material impact on your business. Tell us about tariffs and its impact.
So tariffs absolutely have an impact.
On you, on the consumer, or on everybody?
I think across the board. I think majority of it comes down to the consumer. It always does. But that's not to say that it doesn't come with complications. Just because let's say we're working with a developer and they're building 50 townhomes. Let's say we're mass purchasing equipment and tariffs hit it to where it's a significant increase. We are going to do as a business owner, we're going to do what we can to mitigate that cost, but we're also going to have to increase some of that cost. So we're going to eat a little bit of it. So it's going to affect me by eating a little bit of that cost. That conversation with the developer and the builder is going to be difficult to have because they don't like to hear that things are going up, especially since a lot of the other industries are kind of starting to bring pricing down. HVAC has only gone up since COVID and is only continuing to go up, including with all the code changes in Washington, which are insane.
Oh, the what in Washington?
The code changes.
Code changes.
Yeah, just making things like extremely efficient. They're just super hard to kind of like follow. But the conversation is going to be had with that builder. Let's say they agree because the rest of the market's like that. So the builder is going to eat a little bit of that cost, but he's going to try to pass down more of that cost to the end consumer or the buyer. The problem that we get to is that the consumer, yes, at the end of the day, they will most likely pay for that tariff, but the consumer, a lot of times, because of all these price increases, is getting priced out of the market. And because they're getting priced out of the market, they're not buying a home, they're renting a home. And because they're renting a home, things are not selling. And if things are not selling, they stop or build less. If they're building less, we get less work, and it all comes pushing back up. So what we do is when we see these tariffs happening and things like that, what we try to do is we try to mitigate a portion of that cost. We hope that the builder will mitigate a portion of that cost, and we're hoping the consumer can still purchase that property. We're not there to make
just distributing.
Yeah,
the effect.
Exactly. And we're not in business to make money on builders or maximizing money on builders, right? We want the builders to succeed so the builders can keep building. Because if they keep building, we're going to continue working.
It becomes recurring revenue.
It all becomes recurring revenue. It's a relationship. So the conversations that I have with builders are not always how can I make the most money off of this conversation? It's, hey, this is where we're at. How do we all mitigate this issue? I think what Trump is doing with tariffs is great. I mean, I think he knows what he's doing. He's a businessman. I know that it's going to be a lot of pain before it gets great. There's going to be a lot of disagreements back and forth on how this all works and what, if it's helping or not. I think that
at the end of the day, the consumer has to have the benefit from the tariffs as well. Not just the hurt, not just the price increase, but also some sort of benefit. For example, I'm okay paying 20-25% more for something if I make 50% more somewhere else.
Right.
So if the economy is booming and everything is just rolling at a faster speed, I'm okay with price increases. And you can see the price increase happens on everything, not just electronics or products that are made abroad, but everything, including food,
Services, insurance,
just
you know,
everything.
like
So
intangible items as well.
yeah, it's
And it's,
inflation.
you know, there's other aspects to this too, that like the end consumer, like you're not going to see material difference, but it's there, is like matters of national defense, you know? So to get a company to near shore its operations and its manufacturing, because, you know, if it gets out of India with pharmaceuticals, or if it's, you know, rare earth metals in China, it's more expensive for the US consumer. But if there's ever a war or a conflict, then at least we still can continue to make iPhones and, you know, electric vehicles, or, you know, motors, or whatever it is that we need. It's like we won't see, like, God willing, we won't see that impact, that benefit of national security. All we'll see is an increased cost, but it doesn't make it not the right thing to do for the country.
Yeah, but if the volume increases, consumption increases, guess what? They'll have to lower the prices, because all of a sudden, United States is buying most, like 80% of that product. So volume, now we have leverage.
Sure.
Now we're like, hey, we can negotiate in the price. So as you said, it's gonna get it's
Gonna get worse
painful right
before it
now,
gets
but
better.
it's
Yes.
gonna get much better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, like, right now it seems like it's a lot of people look at it as like this is a bad move. The consumer's paying more money, but like you said, David. I mean, it really, there's underlying things of why this is happening. There's the negotiations are on the table. It's made a lot of countries open their eyes. It's made a lot of people come to the table to actually talk. And I think once those things get sorted out and tariffs can rebalance, like that's all gonna kind of stabilize. With politicians, specifically with the Republican Party, I think that there's a lot of really smart business people in that group, and I think that they have thought through every possible scenario of what can play out. At least I would hope so.
A lot of people argue now.
Yes,
Yep.
a lot of people will argue no. You're right, and I at the end of the day, the consumer is going to pay for a chunk of it. But when you guys are saying that, you know, prices need to come down, I actually think I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think that if anything, they're going to put pressure on employers to pay their employees more, and that's it. What's going to change is the prices will continue to do what they do. It's just people's wages are just going to continue to increase.
Yeah, but it's also bad for business people.
And that's where it comes back around to us. So it's I think everybody's going to feel it, not just the consumer. The consumer feels it too, but the business owner will feel it. I think it just will kind of all go in a cycle, because if people can't afford to buy things, live, eat, buy homes, whatever.
But if your business is booming, who cares?
Who cares?
I can afford to pay 15, 20, 30% more to my employees.
I actually love price increases, because when price increases happen, then when you're pricing out a job, your profit percentage is increased. Your total value of money increases. Your percentage stays the same, but the money increases. So like, and when we kind of touched base on like the code changes in Washington, like the whole industry freaking out, like, oh my gosh, like what are we gonna do? How do you follow these codes, and why are they doing this? And I'm like, bring them on, dude. I'm gonna study I'm gonna study this. I'm gonna know it. And I'm going to be the first to the market with the best product, because everything is going variable speed. EPA doing, refrigerant changes, then the federal government doing efficiency initiatives and tax dollars and all this stuff. This is all great. This is all perfect. We're going to sell higher end equipment that's way more expensive. We're going to be, providing that for the market. Not only are people going to be more comfortable, but they're also going to be getting all the kickbacks from the government, and all those kickbacks are coming directly to our company. So like, let's do more of that. It's a Democrat policy, but I'm all for it right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I've heard it said many times. Chaos equals opportunity. Anytime you have a code change, which I'm very familiar with, by the way. My background is engineering. I did the shop drawings, the spec drawings for the electrical systems, so on commercial and industrial projects. And so I would do the drawings that we would hand to the electrical contractor, and I had to coordinate them with the mechanical guys to make sure the right size wire is set and the right size breakers and everything. But every time there was a code change, everybody scrambles. The world is
Nobody
falling
likes
down.
changes.
It's because like it gets more stringent, it gets more expensive, it gets safer, and in the world of mechanical engineering or HVAC to be more specific, it gets more efficient. But that extra cost, I mean, it helps, at the end of the day, because the prices increase, and you have a very easy scapegoat. You have a very easy person to blame. It's like, well, it's the government. It's not
Right.
me. I don't want to charge you more. It's just that like I can't legally install this type of refrigerant that's cheaper. I can't legally install this system because the code requires me to do this. And it's like it does give you a lot more leverage, I think,
Yes, it really does. Especially with like all this high efficiency stuff, everything has to be variable speed heat pumps now. It's like, okay, well, these things are really, really expensive. On top of the benefit of that, it also weeds out all those small people, small guys, mom and pop shops. It weeds out, it gives the opportunity for the young, the fast moving generation to really step into those shoes. I mean, there's still companies out there that don't want to touch mini splits. And I'm like, dude, mini splits are 70% of my business.
Nice.
I do a massive amount of them. And I remember working again for my previous employers. They were like scared of touching them. They're like, oh, we're going to sell mini splits. I'm having so much problems with them. Or we can just learn to install them really, really well, be the best at the best of the best at them, and we can dominate that space, which is what we did. We learned how to do it perfectly, and we dominated that space. So with the code and efficiency changes, these systems are getting so much more complex. The equipment to operate them and to install them properly is getting so much more expensive. To understand how it all works is a lot of information. And a lot of these companies that have been around for a while don't want to touch it. They're just going to keep doing their old school thing, and that market's slowly going to shrivel away. And the new people stepping into it, they need to have a significant amount of knowledge and a significant amount more money to get into the industry. So for me, it's a great thing. I mean, for me right now, where I stand, great. For starting out, a little bit trickier. For companies been around for a long, long time, either get with the program.
Becomes a bigger entry of barrier of entry.
Yeah, and then the companies have been around for a lot longer. It's like either get with the program or eventually it's just going to die off. So
makes sense. Well, David, it was nice chatting with you.
Yeah.
One question that we always ask is, learning everything you've learned about business. You're a family man. If you would go back to a 16, 18-year-old yourself, what advice would you give yourself? Knowing what you know now.
Buy more Bitcoin, he says.
yeah, I mean, financially.
Besides that one, right?
What advice would I give myself if I could go back to 16, 18? I would say, I read this quote on, I think it was on Facebook, early 20s. That's, it says, become addicted to constant and never ending self-improvement. I would tell myself that quote, and I would tell myself to implement that in not only a business perspective, but in all perspectives of my life. So in business, in finance, spirituality, that's a huge thing. It's weird because I always question, like, like, how did I end up here? Like, how does this happening? Like, I don't have more than what other people have. Like, I don't have more brains. I don't have more, whatever it may be. I'm like, God, why are you blessing me so much with this? And I started to see, and this is again very, very recent. I'm just developing myself as an individual still. I'm starting to see that with the complexities of business and the relationships that I make along the way. I mean, even meeting you two guys, just sitting here chatting. I've been getting so much closer to God, giving so much more thanks to God. He's been blessing me with so much, and I can see that progression happening, in my business life and connecting me with God in such a different way. So becoming addicted to constant, never-ending self-improvement is, spiritually, relationship, spending that quality time with my wife, that little time that we have, that we spend together running a business. It's, you guys understand, it's you're overwhelmed all the time. You come home, your head is like full of these things.
Exactly.
And telling myself to be able to leave that where it is and spend that moment with your beautiful wife. Spend it there. Spend it with your 4-year-old boy that's growing up really, really fast. He's excited to see his papa come home. It's like, give him that time. So I think that I would teach myself those things earlier, specifically with spirituality and relationships, just so I would be able to do that better, I would say. Financially and business wise, I love sporadic craziness. There's nothing I would do different. I would just, if I didn't do it this way, I feel like there's no other way. If I could have been super successful or not successful, but I would still be doing the same thing and rate and everything else. So on that end, I don't think I would tell myself anything different, really. I'd be like, get ready for it, have fun.
That's awesome, man. One more thing we always do is we ask the guest a book they'd recommend. Since you're not super big into reading, Vlad, I think we should recommend
a
book to David. What book would you recommend David read if he's just starting to get into the self-development space?
Well, if you are, to sum it up, because the question I asked previously, and you was basically saying, I grew my business, I went through this hassle, I got to a level when my company is doing 10 plus million, and now I realize that the point is to spend quality time with God, have a relationship with God, with your wife and your family. So I think a book that I would recommend would be not about business. It would be about intimate relationship with your wife and your father. So a book that comes to my mind right now is it's about father's love. I need to send you a link. Now I'm trying to remember the name, but it's about father's love. And the reason why it's important, because I came to a conclusion and belief that you cannot love your wife and your children as you should if you don't have the source, and the source is the father. So if you're not, and it's all like father to you, you to your wife to your kids, and so on. So if you don't have the source, and if you're not taking from the source, you don't have what to give to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And it was true for me, and I realized why I cannot love my kids as I really want to. And the reason why, because I was not getting filled with the love. I was not getting the love from my parents. I wasn't getting the love from my father, spiritual father in heaven. So I realized, okay, that's the problem. So I would basically turn to the father and say, fill me up with love, with care. Give me those feelings that I can pass on to my family.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing, that's an amazing piece of advice. And if you have the link to the book, absolutely send it over.
Yeah, I have the link. Because like many copies I've been
because like this journey for me, this last year or so, I've been noticing so many different things that are just amazing that happen. Like it's weird when they say, like, you take, I don't know if this is in the Bible. I know my mom always used to tell me this. You take one step towards God and he takes like 10 towards you. And it's never been.
It's not in the Bible.
It's probably not. So but it's never been more evident in my life. It's like you take this small step forward, and it's like you see these crazy things that happen, and how much he starts to show himself to you. So like, yeah, it's me and my wife have been praying a lot more. We've been doing a lot of like talking about these things, and it's been really great. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I did find the book. It's another one. There's another book I would recommend, but The Heart of the Warrior is the book, and I'll share that with you.
Cool.
It's an awesome book.
It'll be my first couple reads. We'll get
You can do audio book.
Yeah, I actually thought about it, and I was like, man, with these books, I just listen to them.
Yeah,
just have them
you can just listen 30 minutes a day, while you're driving, and that's typically when I like to listen. Or there's a longer ride to the coast. You can listen, and your wife can listen. So it's good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.